Diane's going to do a wee bit of feedback. Then it's going to be David Cannon from City Fibre, the City Manager, getting Renfrewshire connected. And then Susan Mcgarvey from Digital Systems Coordinator from Renfrewshire Libraries. Her libraries are supporting digital participation. And then Patrick, Head of ICT, Patrick Murray from Renfrewshire Council, on an update on the new digital strategy. Hopefully you can hear me okay. I've got a wee bit of a bad signal here. And then there's going to be a wee bit of feedback on the Mentimeter session from Ross. So anybody who inputted to the Mentimeter session in advance of the meeting, thank you very much indeed. And then we'll just hopefully have some questions at the end. Time for some questions, but it's a very tight agenda. We like to keep the Digiren meetings quite quick and swift, and we give the speakers 5 minutes and we give them a hard time when they go over it. But we are going to give David a few minutes more just because of the scale of what he's going to have to discuss. So Diane, do you maybe want to just take us through who's in the room today?
Great, thanks Alan, and just to say hello Patrick, I can see you've joined us, thanks. So we've got, we were going to do a round robin, but it's quite hard to do it virtually, so I've just taken a note of the organisations that are here, so apologies if I miss you, just shout at me. So we've got Paisley Housing Association, Blue Triangle Housing Association, we've got a few people from Health and Social Care Partnership, a few from HR and OD, we've got West College Scotland, the UWS as well, we've got SCVO, we've got libraries, museums and libraries and museums from Renfrewshire Leisure. We've got the Star Project, which is a community charity. We've got Pashudu, may have said that wrong, sorry, and that's a charity looking at promoting diversity and tolerance. We've also got the new Chief Executive the new Chief Executive Rower for Life, Cassie Forbes. Welcome, Cassie. And we've got a few people from ICT, including cyber security and Patrick as well. We've got the Stroke Association, and we've also got someone from Digital First and Youth Services and Housing Services, and also YMCA. So quite a broad range, which is absolutely brilliant, because as we know, solving the problem around digital exclusion is about working collectively across Renfrewshire, so that's great. If you are going to, just going to say one wee thing, if you're going to tweet or do any posts on social media, if you want to use the hashtag Digiren, just to let everyone know that we are meeting and still talking, and just to keep that conversation alive online as well. So it's hashtag Digiren. Thanks.
Thanks, Diane. We, as I say, we are recording this, so again, if David or Susan or Patrick produces any information that you'd like to pass on, we'll be able to send that link on to you to make sure that you can get access to the recorded material. So, as I say, without further ado, we're going to bring in David Cannon of City Fibre. I've seen David's presentation before, so really good, worth watching, but it's about a big rollout, and as I say, we're going to give him a few minutes more, but not much. So he'll maybe get about 7 or maybe even eke into 8. Okay, David, if you're there, you can maybe start. You want to take over on your behalf, okay?
Okay, thanks, Alan. Let me just see if this is the hardest bit. Right, can everybody see that? Can everybody see that? Is that a yes?
Yeah, that was good.
Yes.
Good, okay. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm very pleased to meet you all. I'm fairly new to City Fibre. I've been around for about 7 months. I don't come from a digital telecoms infrastructure background, so I'm happy to take some questions, but don't ask me too complicated ones. I appreciate I don't have an awful lot of time, so I'll rattle through this fairly quickly. When I started, I was given a 196 slide corporate presentation that you'll be pleased to know I haven't given you, but I've managed to get this down to 10. So bear with me. So start at the very beginning. I'm sure a lot of you know this, that one of the challenges we have in the UK is that the provision of full fibre is really pretty woeful. The chart on the left shows that the demand for IP traffic is increasing all the time, and the chart on the right shows you that the UK is woefully inadequate in terms of fibre connectivity. And in fact, only about 15% of UK premises are in the reach of fibre, and the average download speeds are about 22 megabits. So pretty grim. City Fibre is a completely new organisation. I came from the Calmac, the ferry company. So I left an organisation that was formed in 1851 to join one that was formed in 2011, and that's been a very interesting cultural change, as you can imagine. The idea for City Fibre is to really shake up the telecoms industry, because it was clear that that the current providers, BT, Openreach, and Virgin, were never going to extend things as much as was required. So we've come in with private funding to try and shake things up. As I say, we started with 40 cities, and we're now looking at about 68. And in August, Stirling became the first one in the UK to be a gigabit city, which is 1,000 megabits download. So the mission is to build a new generation of infrastructure. We're trying to, transform the digital capabilities, and I think stuff around, if you look at the way we're all working, particularly working from home, Brexit, all these things, competitiveness and so forth is going to be absolutely vital, and therefore the digital capability to do that is really, really important, and obviously spark innovation. And I'll not go into great detail on all of that, but at the moment, I think people think of the full fibre as being good for downloading Netflix and so forth. But there's a whole world out there in the Internet of Things, drones, CCTV, 5G, all sorts of stuff that will all require the full fibre to thrive. So as a company, we have £4 billion of private money invested, and our aim is to connect 8 million premises across the UK, and that's about 30% of the UK. These are the cities that we've announced so far. Glasgow is there. Renfrewshire, I should have highlighted Renfrewshire, apologies. But as you can see, it's a big long list of towns. Glasgow is by far the biggest investment, and I'll come on to that in a second. But that'll hopefully give you some sense of our ambition. One of the key things about City Fibre, which certainly impressed me when I started, is that this investment that we are putting in will meet an anticipated demands for the next 50 years. So if we've been down your road in Paisley or Renfrewshire or wherever, we won't be back for 50 years, because what we're putting in should be enough to anticipate all demands. I should say I've deliberately not gone into all the detail around the dig and build and how we do all that and how we engage your residents. If anybody wants any of that stuff, probably better to speak to you independently, because that's all, there's a lot more to talk about. But that's basically what we're there to do. We've created this special technology that allows us to just dig a very small part of pavements up. We don't do roads, and then we fill them in, and then that's it for 50 years. So back to where you're probably more interested is what is happening in Renfrewshire. So we've announced a £40 million private investment from City Fibre in the county. I've got a map that will show you where at the moment. Our aim is to connect more than 70% of homes and businesses in Renfrewshire. If you think about the 15% elsewhere, that is going to give Renfrewshire a massive advantage over other parts of the UK. It is really leapfrogging way ahead of many other places. And the gigabit speeds will be 20 times the UK average. So, I mean, that's an incredible difference, as you'll appreciate. One thing to say as well about about the gigabit speeds that we'll be able to offer through ISPs is that it's gigabit in both directions. Those of you that know these things will know that there's normally a huge disparity between your download speeds and your upload speeds. But what we are offering is a gigabit in both directions, which makes a huge difference. Construction started summer last year, and we're hoping the first residential premises will be connected in spring of 2021. There's a caveat that I'll come on to in a second, but we hope to have done the whole of the Renfrewshire area that we've mapped out by 2023. I should maybe just say we're a wholesale provider of digital infrastructure. So the people who will connect you as a resident to the broadband will be internet service providers. And as a company, we're in negotiations with ISPs to get them to come and sign up. We are not wedded to any particular ISP. One of the things about the BT investment and the Virgin investment is that they would be for their customers only. When we put this in the ground, it's available to anybody that wants to use it. So discussions are ongoing around ISPs at the moment. We're hopeful we'll be able to make announcements on that in due course. And now the bit you're all really interested in, which is the map. So this is the area of Renfrewshire that we're building in at the moment. At the moment, if you can see my mouse, we started kind of about here and we're roughly over this way and going up that kind of way. So that end of Paisley at the moment, and we'll start to drift south. Our fibre exchanges that we, so I should said we're in Renfrew as well. The fibre exchanges, which are kind of hubs, are in the north part here. So that's why we start there and then we build out from there. The reason for this funny red bit here is that the way City Fibre has divided up its area by for sort of engineering purposes isn't the same as the way it's divided above ground. So what City Fibre calls Renfrewshire doesn't include Renfrew, so I've had to put that on, but please be assured we are working in all that area. And in fact, we're now also moving into Glasgow. And just to give you some sense of our ambition in the west of Scotland, we're planning to make a formal announcement about our Glasgow build next week. But Glasgow is by far the biggest City Fibre build by a long, long way. Renfrewshire, you will know there. At the moment, we're in Renfrew. We're moving down towards Cardonald, Hillington, Pennylee kind of way just now there. And we're about to start a big build in what we call Glasgow South. So that's Gorbals, Eglinton Toll, out to Oatlands, down to Kings Park, and then out Rutherglen and out to Cambuslang. So that'll give you an idea of the scale of things in Glasgow. This map shows you our fibre exchanges. It's really the blue ones that matter, but that shows you where we will be based across the city. We're not only working in Glasgow, I should say. The first build was in Stirling, which I mentioned, but we also have a build in Inverness, Dundee, Aberdeen and Edinburgh. And that means that, you know, when we're done, we will have connected 1 million Scottish homes and premises. And as I say, half of these are in Glasgow. This is about 500,000 homes. So it's a fair old chunk. And finally, this was pictures from our announcement in September. I'm hoping to do some more announcements in due course as various milestones are met. But just thought I'd let you see that was when we announced it all. The press release is on our website. And that is me. How's that for time, Alan?
David, that was fantastic timekeeping, very impressive, great start. And although I've seen the presentation before, the rollout, it remains very impressive in terms of scale. And this idea that Renfrewshire's kind of pushing ahead to a position where it can really benefit from that is so encouraging for all of us that work here. I'm absolutely sure that's the case. We have got some time for some questions, maybe about 5 minutes or so. So if anybody's got a question, would like to put their hand up. Diane and Ross are keeping an eye on the chat. I don't know if there was anything that popped up in the chat, Diane. There's a question there. So on you go, Diane.
Sorry, yeah. So we've got Bernadette. You're saying when you say spring 2021 for connections, do you mean it will be available to order from them? And could I also ask where about the Paisley Exchange will be located?
Right. The answer to the first part first is that it'll be dependent on. There's two things have to happen. The fibre exchanges have to be completed so they can then, what they say, light up the network, and that's still to happen. So there's a technical something that has to happen first, and then we need to get the ISPs, who are the people who will actually provide the service. So we're hopeful that technically we'll be able to connect. Everything will be connected up in the early part of this year. But there's still the kind of business end of it still needs to be sorted. But you can appreciate there's a huge, from our point of view, the sooner we get people on the network and all joined up, the better. There's two fibre exchanges. One down towards beside the St Mirren ground, and another in Hillington. These are the two. I didn't go into great detail, but essentially each of the exchanges can connect to about 50,000 homes, and then we divide the area up into smaller areas. This is all the technical stuff, primary nodes and secondary nodes. Primary node has about 500 premises, and then it goes down to 50, and then each house has its own connection at the end of its path.
Thanks, David. There's a couple of questions. Ross is looking to ask a question, as is Maureen. Johannes has mentioned cost. How will this kind of, what kind of benefits or costs in terms of going against what's available at the moment? You might not have an answer to that, David, but I'll let Ross ask his question if it's okay.
Okay, all right. I'll think up the cost answer as well.
Yeah, this was a question actually that was in from the YMCA. It was more just around the rollout of this in the Paisley area, and if there's any kind of timescales on when there'll be fibre access and running from the High Street down towards New Street. I think that's quite central in Paisley.
Yeah, there's a fair amount going on in the city centre. We did a whole lot around kind of County Place and things over the Christmas period. The thing to remember, and I haven't really added this in because it complicates things, but we're also indirectly involved in the council's rollout of fibre through the public service network. We are subcontractors to ComsWorld, so we're doing the work. ComsWorld won the contract, but it is all kind of joined up as you'd expect. My side of things is really what we call fibre to the home, fibre to the premises. We've done about, I mentioned before, we divided the town up, or the area up, into primary nodes. There's about 130-ish roughly nodes in Renfrewshire, and we've completed, short of lighting them up, about 35 to 40, something like that. So we're making really good progress. So as soon as the fibre exchanges are connected and we've got the ISPs, it will all, I would expect to, I would like to think it will all happen during the course of this year, but it's impossible to give you a precise date because there are factors out with our control. Was the other question about cost, Alan, did you say?
Yeah, no, David, we've got a couple of other questions to come in. There was a question Johannes was asking, is this going to make things more affordable for the end user? And then I'll bring in Maureen and then Patrick, okay?
Yeah. The answer to that is yes. We are, because we're a disruptor, we're already seeing signs in other parts of the UK where we're coming in and making the big players have to think again about their costs and so forth. What we would hope to have, because we are what we say ISP agnostic, we would hope that in most cities there are 2, 3, 4, maybe more ISPs all fighting for people's business. And obviously that gives choice and creates competition. We know from elsewhere in the UK, I think Milton Keynes, where we've got 3 ISPs, BT have dropped their costs by about a tenner a month in response to what we've done. So the signs are all there, but it's market forces ultimately. So we have to kind of wait and see. But it shouldn't be too prohibitive. The other thing to remember is that if you look at the way ISPs market it elsewhere, they tend to segment it, so you don't all have to buy a gigabit. You know, you can have 100 or 200 or 300 or 500, and there's a different price. And for a lot of people, 300 megabits would be perfectly well. I mean, the 300 megabits is 10 times more than I get here on the south side of Glasgow. So it'll come down to different people will require different things, so it isn't all top end.
It's bound to help having another big player. I think that's key. Maureen, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, it's just a quick question. Thanks, Alan. David, I was just wondering, given we have some quite bad flood areas in the Renfrewshire area, fibre optics obviously underground, who will be responsible for managing any issues around flooding? I know you said that you're not in control of the roads, but if we do have flooding and that will require follow-up, would that be yourselves or would it be down to the local council?
I would well, two parts to that. Firstly, I'm not that technical. Firstly, I know that our fibre has no power running through it, so there's very, very little maintenance. That's one of the advantages, because it's light that's travelling along a fibre path. Some of you might know this stuff better than me. So water shouldn't be an issue. We obviously make sure that the fibre exchanges aren't anywhere that could be flooded. It shouldn't be an issue it shouldn't be an issue elsewhere. If there are, if someone digs through it or whatever, then we'll go and fix it. But one of the things, one of our selling points is that this should need very little maintenance once it's in the ground. Does that answer the question?
Thanks, Maureen. Thanks, David. Patrick, would you like to come in? And Diane's just asking, if you come in to ask a question, can you just make sure you name what agency you're with, Patrick?
Yeah, good afternoon. It's not a question, it's maybe just to set a bit of context here for the participants. The council has a 22-year deal with CommsWorld for a provision of a range of services. That's a fairly unique procurement exercise in Scotland. Those range of initial services vary from the wide area network, urban traffic control, closed circuit TV, to future services including Internet of Things, telephony, etc. A byproduct of that contract was the £40 million investment from City Fibre, because without that investment, which is what we call the anchor tenancy model, CommsWorld would not be able to deliver both the initial and the future services to the council. So that is the link between CommsWorld and City Fibre. You'll have noticed on the drawings or the presentation there is 70% coverage. By 2023, I'd like actually to get Renfrewshire, because I'm actually the mad scientist that come up with this. I'm the guy that went to London and got £40 million out of City Fibre. I'd like to get 100% coverage across Renfrewshire, pan-Renfrewshire. Now, the way that can be achieved is either through other initiatives. For example, the R100 programme that's run by the Scottish Government. There's also a national pot of money under the Department of Media, Culture and Sport. But it's just to re-emphasise the point that the ambition is that by the time we get to 2023, it will not be 70% coverage. We are aiming for high 90% coverage. We want to be not just the best in Scotland, the best in the UK.
That's great, Patrick. And I think that is quite a bold move for the area. Again, as I said at the end of David's presentation. Diane, is there anything else in the chat that we wanted to pick up before we let David go?
Just one from Brenda. Brenda was asking, does the customer cover the cost of bringing fibre from the street into the home or business?
No, we have another contractor that will connect you from the street to your home, so there isn't an additional cost for that. Okay.
David, that's been a great presentation. We can't obviously give you a round of applause in the room, but we a virtual round of applause as always, and thanks for the input, really positive. Thank you, guys. I'm sure we'll hear more about this as it happens, and if as we'll maybe call you back maybe in a couple of meetings' time just to give us an update, David, because obviously it's crucial to us that we have this kind of infrastructure available, particularly in the community setting, which tends to be the thing we're most interested in. So, okay. Yeah. Thanks, David.
If any of these questions, they come back to me and I'll pick up on them. I was going to just continue to listen into the rest of the meeting. Is that okay?
You're more than welcome, David. Great for you to stay. Fantastic. Thank you. Okay. Can we move on then to Susan? Susan, if you'd want to maybe start your presentation, are you taking over the screen?
Yep, I will do. Just bear with me. Okay, and I'm hoping you can all see that okay at the moment.
Yes.
And thank you, Diane, for inviting me. It wouldn't be possible to condense all of our library activities into 5 minutes, so thinking back to your comment about the power of Digiren at the last meeting, Diane, I'll try and focus on activities which where our connections with the Digiren have played an important part. So like everyone else, we had to quickly move our activities and support online, and fairly early in 2020 we were asked by Renfrewshire Council to provide remote digital skills support as part of the Connecting Scotland project, and I have to thank Brenda for including us in this. Our digiteers and some of our library staff were trained as digital champions, and for our digiteers this was a perfect introduction to providing support remotely, and that was, as you can imagine, quite a change from the one-to-one support that they previously digitally provided in libraries. I don't know how many of you have tried to support a learner by phone, but it can be incredibly challenging. And it was also a reminder for all of us just how crucial it is to be digitally connected. One of the people we've supported was a young man who'd lost his job during the first lockdown, and he was actually sheltering in his mum's doorway trying to access her Wi-Fi so that he could apply for jobs. Another was a 70-year-old lady living on her own, never used a computer, but with support was able to FaceTime her family. And thanks to her involvement with Connecting Scotland, all of our frontline staff have now completed or are in the process of completing the SCQF Level 4 Certificate in Digital Inclusion Support. Some have even gone on to access the higher levels of training. And I have to thank both Brenda and Ross for the support they gave both myself and our wider team. Our volunteer coordinator, Scott Logan, has plans to develop more of the online support and increase the ways that this can be accessed. You may have seen the Digiteers Facebook group, which is a fairly recent development. This will allow volunteers to respond quickly to digital skills inquiries, which don't require a lengthy phone or video call. So if you have any service users or staff who might find this helpful, please let them know. I can share the link to that group in the meeting chat. Scott also has plans to host online group sessions on specific topics, for example, creating a CV or job searching. And we hope that the Digiteer service becomes a service that can be accessed not just by individual members of the public, but also by organisations which are looking to support service users with their digital skills. Enable Scotland and Sea Change have recently asked us to support their groups of clients. We're also anticipating that our public PCs, once they're available, that the majority of support requests we see will involve universal credit applications and job search related inquiries. In the last week we've had 3 inquiries from job centres looking for both devices and support for clients, and with the furlough scheme due to end in April, it's very likely this will increase. Unfortunately, the Digiteers project is an externally funded project, so we're currently waiting to hear whether the project will be funded for another year. So it makes it very difficult to plan ahead too much at this point. We're fortunate also to have our own digital participation coordinator, Bernadette Mcgarvey, who I'm sure you all know. Bernadette was assisted by Darren and Claire and the team at the YMCA in moving our existing code clubs online. Thanks Darren and Claire if you're both here. We were up and running by May last year, and we're currently running 2 clubs, each meeting twice weekly online, split roughly by age and ability. The clubs teach important STEM skills, including basic and advanced principles of computer coding, computer animation, video game creation, and general computing skills. But recent feedback from parents shows that the code clubs have helped young people improve not only their coding skills, but also video calling, close listening skills, and they've benefited from the regular activity and contact with their friends. Our branch libraries are community spaces, and we hope that our online activities will give that feeling of community online. I'll quickly mention some of these activities, all of which need a minimum of digital skills. So Read with Renfrewshire is our Facebook book group, which you're all welcome to join. We also have a fortnightly shared reading group where stories and poems are read aloud with guided discussion afterwards. There's no requirement for everyone to read, it's okay to just sit and listen. There's also a creative writing group brought to us by the Open Book organisation. We also have a community jigsaw, which is a live multiplayer jigsaw. There's actually a real feeling of connection when you can see other hands moving the pieces around the screen, and there's online chat within that too. And last but not least, we've got our live streamed quiz every Friday. This is another activity created by Bernadette, and one which we get lots of engagement with. Our digital library services have seen a huge increase, as you'd imagine, in use. Our ebook loans last year were up 70% on the previous year, but we're conscious there may still be barriers for people who aren't digitally confident. So in April, we're offering an instant digital card for ebooks, which only needs a mobile phone number to access, so no lengthy form filling for that. We're also looking at how we can better serve our community with the range of e-resources we provide. So a sneak peek for Digiren and a bit of shameless promotion by me. From April, library members will have access to Press Reader, which gives access to over 70,000 international, national and local newspapers and magazines, which even includes the Paisley Daily. So you can search for news articles which mention your own organisation. I'll give you an example here. Shows an example in the Paisley Daily Express about the Food Train charity. You can save, copy, print or even listen to the article. And if English isn't your first language, there's a choice of 20 languages to translate into. There are also lots of options to share articles. Yeah, it's a great way to share good news stories about your services. So that is all from me, and if you have any questions, please get in touch with myself, Scott or Bernadette.
Susan, thank you very much. That was excellent presentation. Some amazing new developments there. I know that Bernadette's been, putting lots of things in the comments, as she always does, lots of links, lots of available things. Is there anything else, Diane, that's in the comments we should be picking up in terms of questions?
And just one from Ross there, he's asking, is there a specific age for the creative writing, or can anyone join in?
I believe it's open to anyone, but I need to double check that for you. Just to it is done via Zoom. Need to double check for you, but I'll get back to you, Ross.
Sure, that's no problem. Yeah,
maybe
I had a quick
it's
read
maybe
at what
aimed
was...
towards adults,
yeah.
but younger people can certainly join.
Aimed.
Okay, oh, that's great. Yeah, I just thought, I know some of our shelter tenants do like creative writing as well, but I know sometimes they're aimed at certain groups. So. Thank you.
Let that one get picked up. Is there any other questions for Susan that we can take just now? We've got a couple of minutes, just a couple. Everybody quite happy?
I just want to make a comment, Alan, if that's okay. I was just to say, Susan, just one of the things you mentioned about the furlough scheme ending in April and universal credit coming back in. I imagine you were saying there'll be a huge surge for support, and a lot of that seems to come your way, doesn't it, to libraries? I found in my own experience that job centres will refer to libraries because libraries seem to be a place of trust for people who would rather sit at a library computer doing their forum rather than in the job centre. Is that still the case, do you think? And
yeah,
are you going to meet that need?
I think it's very much the case, and unfortunately we haven't had any of our public PCs available since March last year, and I'm pushing very hard to try and make sure that we have at least one in every branch as soon as we're open again for click and collect. We're very aware that we've had inquiries even about accessing the public Wi-Fi, college students worried about falling behind in their coursework, as well as people wanting to do things online. And something I didn't even know was that housing associations, private housing associations often advertise their new lets online. I know one in Johnson had said they would normally, if people didn't have connectivity, they would say to them, go to the library, because they have to actually apply online if they need new housing. And yeah, without our public PCs there are an awful lot more people affected than we've even realised.
Okay. Thanks again, Susan. It was a really good overview, and some of the developments around the multi-language stuff. I know that Gozi, who works with us, is working closely with the likes of Pichedu in terms of being able to get people access. That's something we'll maybe pick up. Johannes and I will maybe have a quick gab about that. I don't know if Johannes, you were aware of that service?
I'm actually glad I came to this meeting, Alan. There was a lot, yeah. So, yeah, I wasn't aware of it, but it's really good.
We'll pick that one up and get a chat about that and make sure we sort of distribute that information via the Emerging Buddies Network, which is looking at the BAME population and other access issues. Susan, we'll maybe come back to you about that one if that's okay. Smashing, thank you very much. Again, Susan, we can't give you a round of applause, but we'll do it virtually as best we can. Okay, thank you again. Excellent, folks. Appreciated. I'm going to pass on to Patrick, who's head of ICT, and he's going to be telling us a wee bit about the new digital strategy. Thanks, Patrick.
Good afternoon. I don't have a slide deck. I'm just going to talk to you. I hope that's okay. That probably makes me sound lazy, but never mind. So, as Alan mentioned, I'm the head of ICT for Renfrewshire Council. I've been with the council for 6 years, although it feels an awful lot longer, to be honest. Previously, I was the head of technology for the smaller, noisy neighbour, East Renfrewshire. Okay, and then I made a decision to join Renfrewshire. I thought I was going to get an easy life. Quite the opposite. Anyway, last year I had a conversation with Diane, and I managed to poach Diane from the service that she's in and bring her into ICT. And the reason for that was I was aware that the existing digital strategy was actually coming to an end. It was going to come to an end in 2020. And I thought it would be probably quite beneficial to sit down with Diane and probably look across, or get Diane to look across Scotland, England, etc., to see what was out there in terms of a new digital strategy. And Diane has always done a wonderful job for us. So we managed to come up with what we called a straw man. And really that was just to get Renfrewshire Council starting to think about what a new digital strategy might look like moving forward. So around the summer of last year, a new digital programme was launched, and there was progress made during 2020 in designing work streams. There are 8 work streams now that make up the council's new digital strategy, and each of those work streams has been allocated a head of service, and it's the head of service's job to lead that work stream. Something I'm going to come to at the very end is I'm happy to come back and probably do a presentation in more detail about what each of these themes are, but the point that I do want to make is certainly moving forward, I think there's a role for Digiren in the digital strategy for Renfrewshire Council, not just in specific work streams, but I think across the board, and that's something that I'm trying to champion at the present instant in time. Anyway, the digital strategy itself, as I said, is made up of 8 work streams. That was approved in the council in September of last year. There was some work done last year in 2020, but because of COVID, progress wasn't really that wonderful, is the best way of describing it. But I think one of the things that came out through COVID was basically to highlight the huge opportunities around digital and what digital could do. So we relaunched the programme in January of this year. And for my sins, it was decided that the head of ICT would take over responsibility for digital. So I'm now Mr. Digital for Renfrewshire Council, unfortunately. Okay. So where have we got to at the present instant in time? Very, very straightforward. As I said, we have 8 themes. We have a theme around digital council. We have a theme around digital foundations, a theme around digital place, a theme around digital skills and leadership, a theme around the digital citizen, which should be of interest to yourselves, a theme around smart data, a theme around our digital HSCP, and a theme around our digital learning and teaching. We've also now added a theme around Renfrewshire Leisure Limited. Okay, so what we have achieved since the start of the year is we've now identified specialist ICT resource and service resource, and that resource is now working with the heads of service that are responsible for each of these strategic themes. Okay, and the appetite, the desire now is to take each of those strategic themes and to start to develop action plans that will cover the next 12, 24 and 36 months. Specifically in the next 12 months with a focus around COVID and the recovery of COVID. Now, already as we're starting to look across each of the strategic themes, we're starting to see some key enablers, things that actually sit and will underpin more than one of the strategic themes. One of them we've actually just touched upon, and we call that connectivity as a service, or actually fibre to the premise. Okay. We're also seeing other themes around the smart data, around the digital citizen and around the digital council that are actually going to underpin all of the themes that we've got. The final point, just to note, from a council point of view, and I'm going to be a little critical here. The council at times struggles with the number of programmes, the number of projects and the number of initiatives that it has in identifying what the priorities should be. So what we're also now trying to do is to introduce into Renfrewshire Council a new governance panel that will actually sit below our corporate management team, but also sit above all of the programmes, all of the projects and all of the initiatives, basically to ensure that we identify the right priorities. The fact of the matter is that moving forward, we cannot do everything. So we need to make sure that from a digital point of view and that from other programmes point of view, we're able to prioritise what actually is important, okay? So that's about reading across the plans of all our major programmes, right? And identifying where we're going to get conflicts and identifying what we're going to deliver. I'll come back to a point I made earlier on. One of the things that's important for me, and I appreciate getting an invite along to this today, is actually how I now start to link up Digiren, okay, into the new digital strategy for Renfrewshire Council. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Patrick, I was wondering there if anybody's got any questions, but I've got a wee bit of a question. I suppose there's or maybe not a question, more a comment. As you said there about sort of ensuring the right priorities, and I would suggest, it's great to hear that you're interested in what Digiren is debating and discussing and how it kind of works together. I mean, as a loose affiliation, I always say this to Diane and Ross. For me, Digiren's this kind of growing group, and it flexes and changes depending on the needs. But I would suggest there's a lot of people around the table here in terms of that reflection on the right priorities. So I think, any connection you can make with the grouping that's around this table, I think would probably be a worthwhile thing for you in terms of development.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point, Alan. Diane had sent me some stuff through last night, Diane, I think in relation to Glasgow. And just the importance of that link between the council itself and sort of these external bodies, if that makes sense.
Yep, absolutely. So it's great you're here, and it's great to see the strategy developing. But I'm pretty sure, as I said, there's some loud folk around this table who'd be quite keen to sort of stick their oar in about what the priorities for digital should be in Renfrewshire. So you're more than welcome to attend anytime you like, and obviously we'd be delighted to hear how things are developing. Has anybody got any questions?
As I said, I'm more than happy to come back at regular intervals if you want and give you an update. That's not a problem.
That'd be superb. Is there any burning questions for Patrick? Oh, Johannes.
Hi, Patrick. I was just looking at some of the priorities you mentioned, and I was wondering, we work with communities that were trying to help in terms of visibility, and obviously connectedness. And so I was wondering, just in terms of visibility, what would that fall under in terms of the priorities that you mentioned?
I think in terms of the work stream that potentially could fall under probably the digital citizen, I would say, or potentially even digital foundations.
And Johannes, I think it's one of those areas, the digital citizen, that kind of wanders into some of the discussions we've been having at the Forum for Empowering Communities within community planning. So I think there's a wee bit of potential connection there. And obviously, for Patrick, Johannes sits on the Forum for Empowerment. So there's opportunities there for us to continue to debate through the community planning process as well. I don't want to pick on anybody, but I was going to ask Cassie Forbes of Roar, maybe just to make comment in relation to older people and what the last year's brought, and that whole thing about connectivity through digital. I imagine it remains a priority, Cassie.
Yeah, it certainly does. It's been very challenging. We've obviously been involved in the Connecting Scotland project, which we started to roll out at the start of the second lockdown. But as the tiers have closed in again, we've had to revert back to telephone contact, which has been a nightmare, as you can imagine. Particularly a lot of the older adults have connectivity issues and challenges, and you can spend an hour on a telephone trying to explain how to send an email, and the next day they've forgotten how to do that. So I've got dedicated digital champions with singular individuals, and we're managing that meantime. However, we've still got a number of tablets to go out into the community, but I can't really do that until the tiers lift again. But we're really keen. We've got a quiz again tomorrow. We're trying to get as many involved and build up their confidence. It's a slow burn, and the champions have a lot of patience because it can be very challenging. But we will get there. But other older adults, they won't touch it with a barge pole. They're just stuck in their ways. They will not go near it at all. So
I think it's maybe just worth making a point. We talked about connectivity earlier. Which I think is great. It would have been even better if we would have started it 2 years ago and it would have been completed because it was denied for COVID. But if anything, the pandemic has just demonstrated, in terms of connectivity, people's use of the internet, okay, across something like Renfrewshire, that now is like the fourth utility, if that's what you want to call it, okay? It's part and parcel of daily life, okay? And that's why we've now got such a drive on to get this rolled out. We have seen more transformation probably in the last 9 months than probably I've seen in the last 10 years, okay? I've got elected members, 44 of them, who a year ago probably didn't know one end of a Surface device from the other, who this Thursday will all participate in a council meeting for about 4 or 5 hours without any difficulty, right? And these are the difficult groups that you've got that actually now are going through a transformation. It's what people expect. We will not go back to what we had before. Okay, there will be some sort of hybrid that we will move to. That's just life.
Thanks, Patrick and Cassie. And I think we are, as Patrick says, we've reached a point with the acceleration in the last 12 months of people who wouldn't participating in such a way. And one of the points I've recognised in lots of debates with sort of community planning organisations and particularly third sector organisations, we're hearing a voice we never heard before. There's some people who are much more comfortable working on digital and getting their points across. So I think that's something we've got to remember when we do return, hopefully, to some sort of face-to-face work as well. We need to, as Patrick suggests, put in a blend. There needs to be something there that's partly, face-to-face in rooms, but also keeping the virtual opportunity. Diane, I seen you with your hand up, but you put it down. Are you wanting to say anything just before we move on to the premier?
It was just to quickly add that thanks, Patrick, and I think from a Digiren perspective, we really appreciate you being here and trying to connect Digiren up with the council more than it has been in the past. So it's really positive for us because this Digiren has been running for the last 5-6 years. But one of the things I just wanted to say to Digiren, I suppose, is that as we move forward and we look for you to try and shape what those priorities are and what the action plan looks like. There's different ways I might do that. It might be through surveys, it might be through the discussions online, or we might set up smaller focus groups or one-to-one discussions with people who are specialists in their area to get your expertise and your insight into the planning. So it'll be a mixture of all of that, but I was saying to Alan earlier today, this isn't a tokenistic offer. It's authentically, we want to know from the experts yourselves who are working with people that are excluded what you think is the best way forward. So I look forward to chatting to you more about it.
Okay, thanks, Diane. Again, Patrick, we offer you a wee virtual. Thank you very much indeed for your input. We'll look forward to seeing you back at the next one when things are starting to develop even further. So thank you very much indeed. Just the last thing on my agenda is Ross is going to take us through the Mentimeter session. I know a number of people participated, so thank you very much for that. And we want to try and keep that Mentimeter open, but Ross will explain as we go through. Ross.
Sure. Yeah, thank you. I'm just going to see if I can share some of the results we got already with everyone. Okay, so can everyone see the results on the screen? I think it's just coming up now.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, good stuff. Thank you. Okay, so I know this is quite a lot of different things to read on the screen, and as much as their font looks nice, it's not the easiest thing to see on screens. So there's actually 2 pages. I'll leave it on the first one now for you to have a read through it and hopefully have condensed some of the points down for people here. And it was interesting to hear Patrick talking about the sort of priorities. One of the reasons we ask these questions of everyone is to make sure that we're on the right path of trying to give support to all the people that are part of Digiren and the sort of direction we're going to go. And the question we asked for this one is what is the most important digital aim within your role or organisation? So we got quite a few responses, like I say. The main themes that came out of it were that people are interested in having access to technology and skills for their staff and workforce, and also for people in the community. So that's the 2 sort of bedrocks, I guess, that we're all kind of aiming for now. There was also using tech to reduce isolation, so building up social links. So again, that's probably been the kind of aim for having any kind of technology, really, is just to bridge those gaps for people. Making technology as accessible and straightforward as possible. So I thought that was a really important point as well, that, not just having access or the skills, but being able to actually use the technology as well. In a lot of cases, there's barriers for people that we don't always see. Access for young people as well. So I suppose the common idea might be that it's older adults that are dealing with difficulties getting online, but that's not always the case either. And then lastly, keeping people safe online. So I think our thoughts have been turning more towards making sure that people can get online in a safe way. And I know there's been a lot of issues of sort of scam emails and calls relating to things like Netflix and Amazon accounts and things. So there's not usually a week goes by that I don't hear things coming in from our tenants as well asking for help. So there's certainly a lot of scams going around now, and it's just always important to make people aware of what's there and to keep them safe. So this was the second page as well. And I thought in particular Patch's one about reaching out to people we support with ease. I thought that was a really good way of writing that, actually, because it is probably one of the greatest barriers we've got. Again, going back to the input from Cassie and Roar, trying to actually reach people with the current restrictions now is a difficulty in itself. And I think certainly when the restrictions are eased even slightly, it'll make it a lot easier to get equipment out to people and also help them to learn to an extent so that they can be more involved. So this is the kind of feedback we got now. What I did in the chat is I've put the link into the Mentimeter as well. I think we got just over half the people in attendance here giving us a kind of response here, but the Mentimeter is open until Friday this week. So we're going to seek any further responses we can add into this. I've put the code in the chat as well, if that's needed too. So feel free to add anything else in that you think has been missed here. And what we'll do at the end is we'll post the results onto our Digiren so that we can get a chat going on the kind of feedback from this. So I'll just close this now.
Thank you, Ross. I think the idea of ease, helping people with ease, is a really interesting one. So, Giannis, I don't know if that was your phrase, but it was a very welcome one. We tend to be battering up against barriers a lot of the time with digital, or it feels like that. So the idea of with ease is a good one, Giannis. Thank you for that.
It actually came from our young volunteer IT, support workers.
Yeah.
That's worth hanging on to, that one. I think we'll liberate that one. I think that's very, very good. Liberate meaning steal, of course, So thank you for that. Has anybody got any questions on the Mentimeter or anything else that they kind of want to record at this point? Remember, we have recorded this meeting, so it will be available, and I'll ask Ross, or I assume it'll be Ross, be able to send around a link to this, Ross. Would that be okay?
That's absolutely fine. Yeah, I'll get a link ready for everyone, and we'll get access to that.
That's great. Well, if nobody has, we're just got about 5 minutes left on time. Fantastic. Thank you to all three speakers. Diana, you want to make any closing remarks or anything?
I suppose just to add, I think we'll try and get an email out as well. There was a recent update from, I don't know if Claire Sharp is here, from STVO, just about funding, a new funding that's been released from STVO. We'll get that email out to you as well, just so you can access that.
Claire's here, Diane, so if we can maybe ask her to say a wee couple of things if she was keen. Claire, are you okay? Are you up for it?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. I'll just stick my camera back on. So the three funds that we have, there is some of you, especially, I can't remember your name, sorry, but the woman from Roar, you might remember we previously ran a fund called Charter Fund. So it's partly funded by BT and also Scottish Government. So it's basically funds for up to £10,000 for digital inclusion projects. So we could, in fact, Ross, I think you were involved in one not last year, because I keep forgetting last year never happened. But basically, yeah, so it's digital inclusion projects that can take a variety of different forms. So that's just launched. There's also two other ones. One is, it won't be relevant, I think, to anyone here. It's based in Edinburgh and the Midlothians. And then the other one, which might be of interest, is around organisations who are already providing like remade devices. So people that are getting donations of bits of tech, doing them up and then giving them back out again. I cannot get the word that I mean, but
refurbishment.
That's the word. That's it. Thanks, Alan. So essentially, the kind of caveat with that is it's not something that you can add into your organisation activities. It must be something you're already doing. But that's open as well. So probably that one and the Charter Fund are the most relevant to you guys, I would say. All the information's on the website, and if anybody that uses Twitter, we've been tweeting like mad about it. So we're the handle is @DigiScot, so DIGI Scot, and you'll get all the links and things on there and application guidance. My colleague Bev McLean, that some of you'll know, is managing both of those funds. So if you've got any questions, feel free to get in touch with her directly, or we've got the digital@scvo email address that, again, I imagine a lot of you are familiar with, but if you're not, it's on the SCVO website.
It's already pinned on our website and engaged as well. We sent it as part of our bulletin during the week, last week I think it was, so I can get that resent round again. Claire, thanks very much for that quick interjection. Much appreciated as always. Diane, you were just Claire, Diane, you were just going to close. Any other points? You sure? You absolutely sure? Because I jumped in and cut you off. Are you sure?
No, that's it. I just look forward to. I think we did say about having these meetings a bit more frequent. Alan, you might want to say that. But lovely to see you all.
I think the point being now that Ross and I are off the hook a bit and Diane's back, right? we will probably be looking to look at a few more sort of regular meetings for Digiren. Actually, with the input from Patrick and obviously the work David's doing, the work Susan's doing, and all the rest of the stuff that's ongoing, supported by Connecting Scotland, it's probably a good idea if we had slightly more regular meetings to share information. And if it's only an hour and everybody's comfortable doing a quick hour like that, then we'll try and do that more regular. But really appreciate your input today. Thanks again to all the speakers. And we'll see you later on. Okay. Thanks very much, folks. Bye.
Right. Thanks, guys.